I believe that more than anything, what we desire are pillars that support our lives beautifully. The pillar of personal well-being. So what I believe is that we are here on this human plane to evolve into our very best and highest self as a human being. And that the road of life takes us through a variety of experiences and relationships and circumstances to help us learn where we still need to grow, where we still need to heal. And as we go, we each build a life that is uniquely our own. And I also believe, and I teach, that the universe we live in is responsive to us. A few weeks ago, I reviewed my idea of our own personal powers that we're working with every day to communicate with spirit. And these powers illustrate our beliefs. So I'll remind you, our three powers. The first one is our mental power, or the power of our thoughts, our intentions, and our dreams. Our second power is our physical power, or the power of our actions and our choices. And the third power is our emotional power, or the power to respond effectively to the way others are using their own powers. So these three powers are like communication wires between our individual energy field and the field of possibilities. And what we send out on those wires shows up in our experiences, and we get feedback constantly about what we are sending out. And we get that feedback by looking around at our lives, the things that are happening and the ways we are feeling about the situations we find ourselves in. That's the loop. But what are we communicating with God about? What are we building as we go? What I believe we are building are the structures that make up our life, and I want to call them pillars. Because I believe that more than anything, what we desire are pillars that support our lives beautifully. And today, I want to introduce these pillars and talk about more in depth about that first pillar. And then for the next two lessons, I'll do the second and the third one. I'll give more examples and illustrations. So the first pillar is the pillar of personal well-being. The second pillar is the pillar of relationships. And the third pillar is the pillar of abundant energy flow. So what I know is if these three pillars are fully developed and strong in our lives, our lives tend to be very satisfying and fulfilling and rewarding. And if they're undeveloped or weak pillars, we tend to struggle and we want things to be better. In other words, these three pillars form a foundation upon which we build our lives. So when you think about your own personal powers, so many of our thoughts and our beliefs and the words we speak are about these three things in our lives. How we see ourselves, how we experience other people in relationships, and what we believe about the energies of love and money and time. It's pretty much a constant dialogue between ourselves and spirit about these primary subjects in our lives. And that dialogue changes as we go, doesn't it? So this first pillar, I have a question. So how many of you knew right away how to take care of yourself when you got to this human plane of existence? You laugh because none of us know how to take care of ourselves right away, do we? Matter of fact, learning how to take care of ourselves at the highest level is actually a lifelong quest, isn't it? Right? There's so many aspects to taking care of ourselves on the human level. And most of us, quite frankly, are still working on it, right? Please tell me I'm not the only one. It's a lifelong journey of learning, isn't it? Because here's what I know. Each of us are individuals that need different things in order to thrive. So guess what? There's no owner's manual that works for you and you and you and me. doesn't apply to all of us. And it helps if we use our spiritual powers to write or rewrite our own personal owner's manual. Because we kind of build that owner's manual as we go, right? The road of life takes us to places where we learn big things, and we learn big things about ourselves and our existence on this plane as a human being. And each place we go, we have the opportunity to build more knowledge of ourselves. And what we learn is, what do we need to thrive? What is best for us? And we also learn what's not good for us and what seems to diminish our light or our power. And we seem to wander into situations that challenge us to grow, to change, to make better choices for ourselves, for our own personal well-being. And these same situations help us develop our wires of spiritual communication too. So every time we learn to make a self-loving choice, I want you to think of it as we're adding a brick to this pillar of personal well-being. And every time we don't make the best choices, some of the mortar kind of crumbles away and we have to try again. And if we don't focus on our personal well-being enough, this pillar can no longer support our lives in the best way. So what do I mean by personal well-being, and what does spirituality have to do with it, Laine? Well-being is a state of existence. Well, here's what the dictionary said. Well-being is a state of being comfortable, healthy, and happy. Comfortable, healthy, happy. To define it further, well-being is not just the absence of disease or illness. It's a complex kind of combination of a person's physical, mental, emotional, and social health. Well-being is strongly linked to happiness and life satisfaction. So basically, well-being is how you feel about yourself and how you feel about your life. And I have found that spirituality has everything to do with my well-being, across the board, basically. Knowing myself deeply as a soul inhabiting a body helps me reach that state of being where I'm comfortable, happy, and healthy. And knowing myself spiritually has helped me feel better and better about myself and my life. So when I encountered spiritual learning in a dedicated way about 25 years ago now, I could see that this pillar was a little like having the Leaning Tower of Pisa, basically. You know, I didn't know myself very well 25 years ago, because I basically had been focusing on what pleased other people a whole lot more than pleasing myself. And I wanted to fit in, right? I never heard the phrase, love yourself the most. That was new. That was way new. I had some catching up to do. So at age 36, I started adding brick to brick to brick to this pillar. I woke up, so to speak. And I started making better and better choices that supported my physical and personal well-being. I learned to love myself better through better choices. I started paying attention to my mental health in a more conscious way, because I sought spiritual solutions to any challenge that I faced, and that helped me feel better about myself. And as I focused on my own growth, I just got happier, and I started maintaining a community around me that supported me in loving myself more. I literally and figuratively joined the choir, right? So situation by situation, I strengthened my ability to manage my thoughts, my emotions, and my choices. And the universal power responded to me. And this pillar grew. And as you can imagine, a lot happened along the road of life over these past 25 years. I'll share some of that. I parented my daughter the whole time during these 25 years. And the parents in the room know that parenting brings a lot of situations and choices that impacted my personal well-being. I had to sort through my priorities and put the most important ones at the top. I experienced the ups and downs of 25 years of personal relationships, and we all know how dating and marriages and divorces and friendships and living in neighborhoods and everything in between contribute to our well-being, right? And my beliefs and thoughts about these personal relationships kept shifting as I went. And over the past 25 years, I completed my long corporate career with all that came with that. I retired, went through ministerial school, became a minister. All of that happened in this time. And along the path, I kept aligning myself more and more and more closely to spending my days in ways that contributed to this particular pillar in my life. I aged 25 years in my body. That'll give you some things to learn about. Everything that comes with having more birthday candles on your cake, right? I learned so much more about taking care of myself physically, managing pain and healing and stress and all those things. So much change. I bought and sold 7 houses and managed all the change that comes with that kind of moving, personally and socially. A lot happened over the 25 years in my life. And I'm sure a lot has happened in your life over 25 years too. And in each situation, I was either building this pillar or I wasn't. And remember our personal powers. All of those came into play, and all of those things I just listed. I was always challenged to direct my thoughts in directions that contributed to my well-being and away from things that tore myself down. I was either allowing myself the personal space to feel my feels, right? And learn about emotions, or I was blocking and numbing my emotions. I was either making better self-care choices or I wasn't. And you've been doing the very same thing this whole time. So over the period of my 25-year span, that relationship that I have with myself has gone through so much, and it never stops. You know, it does never stop. And as I was kind of thinking about this lesson today, I didn't know if I could stick with the lesson that I planned. But I decided I was going to tweak it a little bit to address our current situation that we are all in at this moment. See, I'm trying to balance my commitment to providing a space here for everyone to have a center that is free from that constant conflict and divisive focus topics that we're kind of swimming in right now. And I have to balance that with my commitment to be relevant to the current moment and provide spiritual teachings that make a difference in our daily lives right now. And so I want to kind of try to strike that balance on this particular topic. So right this minute, we are all driving through part of the road of life that is requiring us to focus heavily on our owner's manual as we try various methods to lay some much needed bricks in our personal well-being pillar. And many of us are actually rewriting some of the aspects of our self-care manual. And I hope you will consider joining us as we move through this part of the highway that we're on and where we're being bombarded with all of this conflict and division that I mentioned. So how do we take care of ourselves right now? How do we do it? You know, I don't know about you, but right now I'm trying to evaluate my daily habits to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, both on the human level and on the spiritual level. If my pillar of well-being is going to be strong, it's going to take some practice right now. So I've decided to create some better boundaries. We talked about boundaries in Sacred Cup this morning. I've decided to create some better boundaries for myself around politics. So Terry and I have been talking about this a lot in reference to our shared space too. We both decided to remove social media from our home screens on our phones so that if we want to engage on that level, it's a conscious choice and not an unconscious habit. We have to go seek out that connection. And we've also reduced the exposure we have to news from any source because our personal well-being matters, right? Boundaries are so supportive to well-beings, aren't they? And to be honest, I don't really have, maybe you can relate to this, but I don't really have a ton of people in my life who disagree or see things very, very differently than I do. But quite frankly, those are kind of the people that it's easy to set a boundary with because over time, you know, you kind of know who you can have certain kinds of conversations with and who you can't. Don't even want to go there, right? But right now I'm having to personally get clear on the boundaries that I need in relationships with people who very definitely agree with my points of view on a lot of subjects, right? I've had to determine quite recently, what are my limits on time spent on these hot topics? How much time do I want to do? How much am I willing to actually talk about what's going on and give my energy to worry or have concern or even self-righteousness? Like, how much do I want to go there with that? How much time am I willing to spend thinking about the chaos and the confusion, and how much of my peace of mind am I willing to relinquish in order to engage? See where I'm going? I have found that people want to process their fears and their concerns more than I can tolerate and still take care of myself. There's an energy depletion whenever fear and anxiety are present in a conversation. And I am willing to engage with that only when the person is seeking a personal solution or a strategy for coping or a strategy for making a difference. See what I'm saying? I'm happy to go there. But just processing it, I have to have a limit to that. So what a perfect invitation we have been given to lay some fresh bricks in our personal well-being pillar. So am I happy that the road of life is going through this particular terrain? No. But if I can stay in the spiritual lane and harness my personal powers and engage with spirit, I can remain strong and resilient and faithful throughout. So I want to give you some questions that you can ask yourself every mile in the highway of life to help you know how to keep your well-being at the forefront of your decisions for this day. Ask yourself, what do I need to be my best in this situation, in this relationship, in this circumstance that I find myself? What do I need? What thoughts support me in feeling self-love and staying spiritually centered and poised? Ask yourself, am I surrounded by the right people to help me drive this part of the highway of life? Ask yourself, what choices can I make right now that empower me? Because building this pillar is a lifelong quest, and Spirit is guiding you the entire way if you will listen to that small voice within you that's trying to steer you. So how is your pillar of personal well-being? I love the song that they sang, and I'm going to remind you of what it said. I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, to help you awake to all the wonder that you are. I long to show you all the joy you're worthy of. I'm here to remind you how much you're truly loved. And you're here to remind me of those same things. That's why we travel together. You are in the perfect place to work on this pillar. We're driving this highway of life together, witnessing each other through all the same things I described that I've been through over the past 25 years. Guess what? That's what's ahead on the road for all of us again. And we're witnessing each other through this current moment in history as well. And we come together because it helps. We are committed to providing everyone with the inspiration and the encouragement you need to love yourself mightily and open yourself to greater peace of mind, greater harmony, joy, and healing. We are a community that will cheer you on as you lay bricks in your pillar of personal well-being, making joyfully watching you make yourself happier and healthier and more comfortable. So in future lessons, I'm going to talk more about the road toward greater physical, emotional, and mental and intellectual well-being, for that matter, and how we are introduced to situations and circumstances that invite us to strengthen this pillar. There'll be lessons all year long about this pillar. But the bottom line is that building and maintaining this pillar is a lifelong mission. It's part of the meaning of life and why you're here. When you think about the road that led you to this moment, you're able to identify thousands of experiences that have helped you learn about your personal well-being. Check out the bricks that you've laid up to this point, times you've really stepped toward your greatest well-being. Maybe you have many more bricks to lay, and maybe you can step back and keep building your whole life on a pillar that's already supporting your best life. I don't know where you are on your path. What I know for sure, though, is if you look back at situations you've been in, some illustrated for you how strong your pillar is, and some things help point out where your work continues. And that is what's up the road ahead for you. What I know is that having a strong pillar of personal well-being is part of a strong sense of self-love and open connection with your highest self. My invitation is for you to dedicate yourself to the strongest self-love you can find within you. You need it right now, and you're going to need it on the road that we still have to travel. Will you pray with me? What I know right now for each and every one of us is a great level of self-awareness, an awareness of our connection to the divine. I call forth to each person clarity and discernment as you look at everything around you and know what is yours to do to love yourself the most. And I know Spirit meets us in that moment. Spirit flows energy with us as we flow energy towards ourselves, towards our best selves. I know for each person a willingness to grow, a willingness to heal, a willingness to experience the power of love that is present always, and magnificently become their best self. I am grateful for each person here. I'm grateful for the pillars that we build together, the bricks that we lay together, the houses that we'll paint together. I'm just grateful for this community. I let it go and let it be. And so it is. And so it is.